Hello everyone, it is Matt here from Scoop in Response, and today we are going to be looking at another Warhammer 40K deck tech. This time we are looking at Neyam, Shai, Mura. I'm sure I've got that wrong. Great times with that. I'm not a Warhammer fan, if I'm completely honest. It's not something I've ever really been that interested in, but I do love Magic cards, so we're going to be looking at a new deck for this one. So it's a bit of a weird direction with this commander. Neyam Shai Murad is 2 white black, so a 4-drop. It's a legendary creature, human rogue. It's a 3/3, and it has Rogue Trader. Whenever Neyam Shai Murad deals combat damage to a player, you may have that player return target permanent card from their graveyard to their hand. If you do, that player chooses a permanent card in your graveyard, and then you put it onto the battlefield under your control. So what we're going to be doing with this card is we're going to be breaking parity by putting permanents that they don't necessarily want in the graveyard into the graveyard, and we're only going to be giving them really bad choices. So that's kind of the idea with this one. So very, I guess, different approach. Now, we're probably going to get a few noses bent out of shape with the way I'm going with this. So I just want to say this deck isn't for the faint-hearted, but I just want to stress that we are going to be giving people back what we have taken from them. So this isn't going to be the same as other decks of its type where we just take everything and we don't give anything. So with that said, let's jump into the deck. So we're going to be using these as our payoffs. Essentially, we are a Ponza deck. So we're going to be playing cards like Break the Ice, Sinkhole, Choking Sands. All of these are land destruction spells. So we've got a whole bunch of instants and sorceries. We're going to destroy our opponent's lands, and then we're going to give them back to them. So we're going to use our commander, we're going to give back our opponent's lands to our opponents, and instead they are going to give us some, I guess, cards that they're not going to necessarily want to give us back, because instead of it just going to the, to our hand, it's going to go to the battlefield. So I think you can really do some crazy things and break parity with that overall. And I've just spotted that there's a card that should have been on the actual list that is not, which is Buried Alive. So that's going to let us get 3 creatures and put them into the graveyard. But what we're going to be doing is, instead of taking advantage of cards like fetch lands and ramp that is going to be, really easy to, I guess, return, we're actually going to have a lot of control over our own graveyard. So we've got all of these spells that are going to destroy our opponent's lands. So we've got Break the Ice, Sinkhole, Choking Sands, Icequake. We've got Stream of Acid, Despoil, Befoul. You can kind of see where we're going. Vindicate, Rancid Earth, Rain of Tears. Yeah, there is a lot of, I guess, a lot of removal for lands in these old cards. So we're going to be shooting our opponent's land, and then we're going to attack into them, and yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of fun, because they're going to get a land, they're going to get a forest back to their hand, and we're going to put an Emrakul into play, or an Avacyn or something like that. We're going to be doing some weird and horrible things to really muck up their day. Now, we've got a lot of lands because we have a hugely high curve. We've got a total of, I think it's 29 or 30 lands, plus an additional 10 modal dual-face lands. So it's going to be, I guess, pretty tricky to juggle all of that. But basically, we want to have as many, I guess, lands that serve as other functions so that we can actually just get to the top end all on its own. So, we've got some reanimation here. We've got Reanimate, Unburial Rites, all of that. And then in addition to our sorceries, we've got Malakir Rebirth, Path, Swords, Deadly Dispute, Fateful Absence, Kabira Takedown, Sajiri Shelter, Hagra Mauling, Vanishing Verse. So we've got really good removal and a whole bunch of really good land destruction spells. So I guess the next question you're probably thinking is, okay, so we've got all of these things to set up, what are our actual payoffs? So we look at all of our payoffs. We're running everything big. So everything except for the one Stoneforge Mystic is going to be huge. So we've got our Planeswalkers that all sort of start at 6 mana plus. We've got Liliana, Sorin and Sorin. We've got Ugin, Khan, and Ugin. So just all of the big boys and girls, just lots of, you know, absolute houses. So if you're liking a Timmy deck, this is a good way of playing on, I think. And it's going to be in colors that you don't necessarily get to do this kind of thing in regularly. Now the only, I guess, payoff that's less than probably 6 mana is what we see here, which is Stoneforge Mystic, which is really just a copy of, you know, Batterskull or Cauldron or whatever else we want to put into play. It's lots of, you know, just big stuff that we can go and search out of the deck. And basically it's like getting an extra card. So I thought that it was worth including. But some of the big creatures we've got Helldoser, which is destroying another land, so good times. We've got Obnixilis, Ancient Gold Dragon, Angel of Despair. We've got the, I can't remember how to say this one, Arvinox, the Mind Flail, which is basically just the Stranger Things card, except the non-Stranger Things version, so the Mind Flayer. We've got Chancellor of the Annex, which is just a silly card. It's a mana tithe if you have it in your opening hand. Elish Norn, Emiria Shepherd, Eternal Dragon. This is another card that's great. You can get that into your graveyard by cycling it. You can also go and get the Timeless Dragon too, which is really sweet. Another way to get a big creature into your graveyard. Gurmag Angler. Now this is, I guess, a cool way of, I guess, cheating and controlling your, you know, your graveyard. So if we fetch and, you know, we have a Jeweled Lotus or something like that we've played to cast our commander, we can use the Delve on Gurmag Angler to, you know, go and get everything back, put everything into exile so that our opponents can't just give us a land back or something like that. Got Meteor Golem, which is destroy target non-land permanent that an opponent controls when it ETBs. Sarah's Emissary. We've got Akroma, Angel of Wrath, Archon of Cruelty, Ashen Rider. Like, these are all just big beaters. They're just absolutely huge beaters. Like, I don't think we really need to dwell on any of them, you know, too much particularly. You know, they're all going to basically win you the game if you get one or two of them out. We've got Avacyn, Gorex, the Tomb Shell. This card's kind of cool. It's just another way to, I guess, you know, delve. It's delve without the keyword, I guess, or at least I think it is. Oh, well, it's double delve really. So yeah, and then you get to return those cards, you know, at random and put them back into the owner's hand. So it's really sweet with that. It that betrays, you know, your opponent sacrifices a whole bunch of stuff with Annihilator, and then you get to keep them. And then Big Noodle Emrakul. So that's the payoffs overall. I think these should be pretty straightforward. The whole deck is sort of built around, you know, getting your commander out, putting something huge into the bin, or you know, just finding a way to basically break parity, you know, ramp with, you know, all of the effects that we've got, you know, because even just having a creature, having your opponent, you know, returning a land, like a fetch land every turn, you know, ramping, that's doubling the number of lands you get. But we'll go into what our discard outlets are, because we've got a few of them in the list, which is how we're going to get all of these payoffs into the bin and, you know, really do something wild with them. So we've got our artifacts and our enchantments. So we'll just scroll down here. So we've got our Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt. You know, both of these are obviously just great. We've got our Soul Ring. All of these are just, you know, ramp spells, so we're going to be able to power them out if we get some of that. Codex Shredder is a mill effect, so we can just start milling randomly ourselves most of the time. Really, really useful to do that. And then we can return cards from our graveyard to our hand if we really want to as well. So super, super sweet with that. We've got Currency Converter. This is our first like true discard outlet, and it's really, really powerful in this list. So whenever you discard a card, you can exile that card from your graveyard, and then you can pay 2 and loot and draw and discard, keep doing. But then you can also tap and put a card exiled with Currency Converter into your graveyard. If it's a land, create a token. If it's a non-land card, treasure token. If it's a non-land card, create a Black Rogue creature token. So you discard your thing goes under the Currency Converter, and then you put it into the graveyard anyway. And that's how, you know, you basically, you know, make it all work. And we're actually going to get extra value because this card is just sweet. The other one that's, I guess, similar in that respect, we have Sensei's Top for doing the same kind of thing off the top of your deck, but, you know, really, really useful to see what we've got, and then you can basically swap it and, you know, do all kinds of weird and wonderful things with the Shredder. We've got Relic of Progenitus, which will let us exile all of the things that we would want to get out of the graveyard before our opponents get a chance to do it. And yeah, really cool. Now, it's worth noting you see a lot of 1-drops and 0-drops here. We're running Urza Saga because why not? It's a land that probably one of the few lands where we don't mind getting that back into play because we can just go and get another awesome thing out of it if our opponents decide to give us that particular permanent. So we've got protection and haste, so we've got Lightning Greaves, that's really good. Unlicensed Hearse, a lot of the time we can be doing it on ourselves, you know, so if we want to be, you know, really making sure that we get the right permanent into play, we can do it on ourselves. Archaeomancer's map is just a way to, you know, ramp, so you go and get your basic Plains cards. We've got quite a lot of them in this deck, and whenever a land ETB is under opponent's control, if they have more lands than you, you get to put a land from your hand onto the battlefield, so really sweet. It's really just about getting those lands in the hand, though, rather than necessarily playing the ramp catch-up, so to speak. Got Argentum Armor, which is just, you know, destroy target permanent, so you shoot their land each turn. Really fun. And Cauldron Complete, obviously, as well. Cool card for this kind of list. I want to say, though, like, you know, you've got a lot of flexibility with colorless, I guess, payoffs and, you know, equipment that is really fun to put into play, because we're going to kind of be that big mana deck in a lot of ways. Yeah, I would thoroughly recommend, like, you know, if you've got a favorite sword that you want to play or anything like that, there's so much opportunity to play anything that you really want to in this kind of list, because we're not a Voltron deck. We're not trying to do that efficiently. It's just going to be really fun to have, you know, a bit of extra payoffs. So we've got Animate Dead and Dance of the Dead. These are just 2 additional reanimation spells. And then I guess the ones that you probably don't see every time is the Blight. So if an enchanted land becomes tapped, destroy it at end of turn. So you basically give this to your opponent, and if they want to, you know, activate their land, it destroys the land at end of turn. Don't put it on a fetch land. It's not really going to work for that. Yeah, so this is another one of those like small, I guess, permanents that you're going to be able to cast early, but your opponents aren't necessarily going to want to give it back to you, because you can, you know, just keep color screwing them, or, you know, even just fully screwing them. So yeah, really good. Endless Horizons. Now this is kind of a cool card. You know, when Endless Horizons comes into play, search your library for any number of Plains cards and remove them from the game. Shuffle your library. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can put your own removed cards from your game, from your hand, far out. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a card you own removed from the game with Endless Horizons into your hand. So if you have this, you know, you go and search for 3 or 4 or 5 Plains, and then you basically get one back each turn. So if your opponents destroy it, that kind of sucks, because you've lost, you know, a couple of lands that you won't get back, but you've actually taken 5 lands out of your deck, so that's really good. It improves the consistency of everything else, so really sweet with that respect. So lastly, we've got I guess the lands, which are you know, breaking down the lands. We've got a few fetch lands. Got the Cabal Coffers, Command Tower, the Flooded Strand, Gemstone Caverns, Godless Shrine, Marsh Flats, Nykthos for a little bit of additional you know, devotion utility. Really sweet with that. You know, basic Plains, the Vista. We've got Unblockable with Rogue's Passage, the Scrubland, just because why not? And then we've got the other half of the combo with Cabal Coffers, which is Urborg. Then we've got Urza Saga, Wasteland, and Windswept Heath. So, you know, you can definitely tune this harder into having Strip Mine as well. I think that I wanted to really get the idea out for this deck mostly. I would say that there's no one particular card in this kind of deck that is really going to, you know, like make or break the deck. The idea, I think, is the sweet part. And the cool thing about all of the payoffs, you know, that we've got in this list, there's just so much flexibility, you know, like you can cut the number of payoffs, you could go harder into like a looting strategy, you know, there's other, I guess, looting effects that you can have attached to cheap artifacts, and you can play more artifact synergy. There's really like a whole lot of flexibility with this kind of card and this kind of deck. So it was actually interesting, because I was really uninspired with the Commander when we first had a look at it, when it first got spoiled. I just couldn't really work out where it would actually go. You know, it's not like it's the kind of thing that just sort of jumps out straight away in how you can sort of unfairly break parity. You know, obviously if we want to just play a Timmy deck, that's cool, but this is like, I think, a really fun way of doing it, because I think I love land destruction in non-commander, so I really enjoy playing, you know, Ponza decks in Modern, or, you know, just Wasteland and Strip Mine locks in Legacy and Vintage, and Highlander and things like that. And so I really enjoy that kind of strategy, you know, the taxes style approach. And this is kind of like taxes with big mana, which is probably not something that you've been able to do efficiently in Commander before. Yeah, there's some stacks lists in CEDH that are, you know, really efficient that will get to big mana, like Adalin and things like that can get you to larger mana and still stacks you out hardcore. But this is like a much more straightforward, we're going to blow up their lands, then we'll give them back to them. So hopefully we don't get hated out too much, because we can spread out the love, make sure that someone's always going to, you know, get a land back, but we're also going to be able to make sure that we're getting, you know, insanely good value back ourselves. So yeah, that is the deck overall. It's, I think, the third video that I've put together for the Warhammer lists so far. I'm really enjoying the Warhammer set overall. I think it's very cool with what they've done so far. I have got to have a crack at a lot of the Teamer commanders. It's been really hard to find a way to make an interesting deck out of them, though. I think that they're really, I want to say that they're like quite obvious in how they're built. And so that's the challenging part, is like, how can I add value to you? Because, you know, if you just want me to make a deck with, you know, 45 Hydras in it, I mean, that's not really a lot of creativity and thinking on my part. It's just going to EDH Rec and looking at the 20 best Hydras, sticking them in with a whole bunch of other, hit the mic, with a whole bunch of other generic stuff. So yeah, that's the deck list. I really hope you enjoy it. Keen to hear thoughts on this. I feel like this is the kind of commander where there's going to be a whole bunch of different ways to build it. I probably haven't thought of all of the ways. Really keen to see what you guys are doing. You know, give me a comment, all of that kind of stuff. Don't forget to eat your vegetables and like and subscribe and all of that wonderful stuff too. Thanks so much for checking out the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.